There's a question that turns up at red lights. Sometimes it's the kitchen at 11 at night when the dishwasher is going and everything is finally quiet. Sometimes it's a Sunday afternoon that lasted longer than expected. It arrives and it's very simple, and it's some version of, "Is this it?" And here's the interesting part. Almost nobody finishes the thought. It surfaces, and within about 4 seconds there's a light turning green, or a message coming in, or a reason to stand up, and it's gone. Not answered, just interrupted. Most people have had that moment 100 times. Most people have never once had it for longer than 4 seconds. There's a reason the question doesn't get answered, and it isn't avoidance. It's that most people are looking for the wrong kind of thing. The word purpose has been handed down as though it's an object. Something with your name on it, buried somewhere, waiting. Find your purpose. Discover your calling. The language is the language of a search, and a search assumes the thing already exists, complete, somewhere you haven't looked yet. So people wait. They wait to be struck by it. They assume everyone else was issued one at some point and they miss the day. And waiting produces exactly nothing because there was never anything buried. There's no object. That's not a disappointment. It's the good news, and it takes a minute to see why. Because meaning isn't found. It's made. And it's made out of 3 ordinary materials. The first is contribution. Something you do that lands somewhere outside yourself. This is smaller than it sounds. It doesn't require a cause or a calling. It requires that something you did today mattered to someone who wasn't you. The second is growth. Some direction of travel, not achievement, direction. The felt sense that you are becoming slightly more capable of something than you were. People can tolerate enormous difficulty while they're growing, and very little comfort once they've stopped. And the third is connection. At least one relationship in which you are actually known. Not company, known. The number required is much lower than people expect, and the quality required is much higher. That's it. Those are the materials. And notice what all 3 have in common. Every one of them is something you do. None of them is something you find. Now the obvious objection. That all sounds fine if your circumstances allow it. And it's a fair objection, so it's worth taking seriously rather than waving off. But it turns out the conditions required are far lower than anyone assumes. Contribution can be 1 phone call. Growth can be 20 minutes on something you're bad at. Connection can be 1 person. The mistake isn't that people lack the raw materials. It's that they're waiting for a version of the materials big enough to feel like an answer. And the small version is the only one anybody has ever actually had. Which raises the real question. And it's the one this week is built around. If meaning is made rather than found, if it's assembled from 3 things any person can begin on an ordinary afternoon, then what happens to a person who has none of the 3? Not by choice, by circumstance, by something taken from them. That's not a hypothetical. It's the subject of the next video in this week, and the answer that comes back from the worst conditions a human being has ever had to build in is stranger and more useful than anything a comfortable life would have produced. So here's this week's work, and it starts before any of the building does. The next time that question turns up, at the red light, at the sink, on the long Sunday, don't let the 4 seconds close it. Stay in it a little longer than is comfortable, long enough to ask which of the 3 you've actually got right now, and which one has quietly gone missing. meaning was never going to be found. But it has been buildable this whole time.